Coming to you is in an email is the general mathematics assignment, the first one for the year. So please, when you print it out or read over it, when I give you the printout copy, add your name. My name, Mrs. O'Grady. It is issued today and it is due on or before the 28th of the 2nd, so the 28th of February. The marking schema is probably pretty important to have a look at. Formulate, so your plan is worth 4, the solving is worth 7, evaluate and verify is worth 5, and communicate worth 4. So out of the 20, if you choose to communicate badly, you're basically throwing away an A grade. So everyone can communicate, you can write the sentences, that's picking up on the drafting. I expect most of you to get at least a 3 in the communicate. So moving through, the conditions are that it's a problem solving and modelling task. The Unit 3, it covers all of the topics: bivariate data, sequences and change, and earth geometry. This is topic 1, bivariate data analysis. And that, as you know, we've covered already in weeks 1 and chapters 1 and 4 last term. In class today, I gave out some further revision for chapter 4. You can pick that up on Monday. That's not essential, but might be helpful for the exam and or reviewing the skills that we used. Okay, so it's 4 weeks for your assignment from today. It is written up to 10 pages and a maximum of 2,000 words. I will be using the word count from Turnitin. I will stop reading at 2,000 words, which is important to note because the evaluate and verify is usually the section at the end, and that was worth 5 of the marks. So if I stop reading, I'm most likely to not read your evaluate and verify, so you'll lose the 5 marks. So 2,000 words is it. A unique response must be developed by each student. So we have collected data today in class. You'll have been emailed a Google form from Ms. Cuskelly that you can no longer enter into. We locked it down this afternoon, but if you take your measurements on Monday, I'll add those to the class set. I still have editing rights. Okay, so you're welcome. You're encouraged to take those measurements as outlined in the email from Ms. Cuskelly. I think there's a diagram to explain some of the terms. Okay, so you're going to develop a unique response by selecting data. The use of technology, no surprise there, you'll probably use a spreadsheet. It does need to become a little bit more complex. Okay, scrolling down. So the context, obtaining an accurate height estimate is important for calculating body mass index, pulmonary function, and determining body surface area for drug dosages, and renal clearances and other patient care issues. However, measuring height can be difficult for individuals who cannot stand or who have various physical anomalies, such as spasticity, contractures, fractures, amputations, scoliosis, paralysis, or osteoporosis. And unfortunately, there's no criteria standard to measure or estimate height for those who cannot stand to be measured with a stadiometer. That's like the one in the gym where you pull it down. Measurements which may have a relationship with height include arm span, demi-span, half span, or knee height. So they're the measurements that you've been asked to take. So the actual task that you're going to do is to select two appropriate measurements which could predict the height of individuals who are unable to stand, and you're going to verify to determine whether there is a relationship between height and the chosen measurements that exist. Compare the selected measurements in order to determine which of the measurements is the best predictor of height for an individual who is unable to stand. So to actually do the task, you must respond with a range of understanding and skills such as mathematical language, appropriate calculations, tables of data, graphs, and diagrams. So remember, it's bivariate data. Provide a response in the context that highlights real-life application of mathematics, well, by looking at the different diseases, and respond using a written report format that can be read and interpreted independently of the problem-solving and modelling task. That means I should be able to take your maths assignment and give it to Mrs. O'Reilly in the English department, and she should be able to read it and understand it without having this task sheet. So it needs to be able to stand alone. You have to develop a unique response, so selecting from the data, and you need to use both analytic procedures as well as technology. So we need to see maths as well as technology. The checkpoints are already important, and I've outlined those in an earlier email. You'll note they all fall on Friday, but you are able to email them to me. That's so that I can review them over the weekend and get you the feedback in Monday or Tuesday lesson. So students, by the end of next week, you're going to email an assessment plan to the teacher with your individual data. That means you'll have done the formulate section. Then on February the 14th, the following Friday, students will email evidence of their progress to the teacher. So I'm thinking that we might have some sort of standard scaffolding thing that shows me that you've got sort of how far you've got, but not quite written up into report mode. And then February the 21st is students submit a draft for feedback. I'm expecting a fully completed, maybe not polished English-wise or report-wise, but a fully completed task that allows me to provide you with the best feedback. And then within a week that you will be submitting that final response, and that needs to go through Turnitin. I'll allow multiple responses into Turnitin because that will give you a word count, possibly more, maybe I don't know if it's more accurate than Word. Okay, so that comes also under the authentication strategies. You'll be provided with 3 hours of class time. I'm going to confer with the other teachers and see when we're doing those to make sure that that's roughly the same. Your progress will be documented. So I need to see your work in class, and you must submit a declaration of authenticity. We'll get that printed out, you'll sign it, and we'll staple it to the front of your task sheet. You need to use Turnitin, and your teacher will ensure cross-marking occurs. That's fine, that's what we do normally. That means Mr. Cross will mark some, and Ms. Cuskelly and Mr. Belugi. Scaffolding, the approach to problem solving and mathematical methods must be used. So that's the attached sheet. I'm hoping it's attached here, otherwise I'm going to go and scan. We didn't go through this, the marking schema particularly, but in Formulate is what I'm expecting to see by next Friday. So your assessment objectives are to select, recall, and use facts, rules, and definitions. You're going to document appropriate assumptions. You're going to accurately document relevant observations. Now they're separate, so make sure they're separate paragraphs. And accurate translation of aspects of the problem by identifying mathematical concepts and techniques. So that's your methods. So statement of some assumptions, statement of some observations, so that's down in the 1-2. They're the things that we're looking for by Friday. Then in the next week, we'll look for the solve by the next checkpoint. So I'm just going to skim down to the actual, well, it's not attached. All right, so I'll talk to you about this. The Formulate stage, which I will scan and put in, and you can print out and listen to or read as I do this. The Formulate stage is what we need for the first checkpoint. So students must translate the problem into mathematically purposeful representation by first determining a sampling method that will be used. Appropriate assumptions set, appropriate observations and variables must be identified and documented. An appropriate sample size must be selected and justified. A discussion of the statistical concepts and techniques needed to mathematize and then solve the problem is required. That's where you list out your method. How are you going to solve this problem? And finally, a consideration of how technology will be incorporated into the solution is also required. So that's the Formulate, and that's the section that needs to be done by next Friday. So I would focus on that. Miss Caskelly has also locked down the data and sent it out. We collected it today. So as I said, you are welcome to record your data, and I will add it into the data set so that you're included. But at the moment, we've just locked down their data as it is, so you can have a look at what the other students were able to enter. Okay, I hope that's helpful. Ask me any questions on Monday. See ya.